warm good afternoon to everyone. Uh, so we was intently listening to the previous session, and we are trying to unpack the experiences of the esteemed panel. I must uh, I must first of all thank Bhavesh and Images Group for giving us this platform to talk about what we have unpacked for the Indian consumer. And as PwC, we do this quite regularly, quite often, trying to fast forward this entire journey of what the Indian consumer is thinking and what she's trying to say. And I'll just paraphrase a famous comment by David Ogilvy, which says, consumer is not stupid, she's your wife, right? So, in a way, the purpose of this presentation is to just give you a quick download of some of the very critical insights that we have picked up through a very recent survey that we do, and that's to fast forward the overall understanding of what the consumer is all about. This is a global survey that we did in PwC, spread across multiple markets. India was one of them. 1,000 consumers spread across the length and breadth of the country, representing the entire age cohorts which are relevant for us, talking about employment profiles, talking about geographical locations which are spread across the country, north, south, east, west. The real purpose of this whole exercise was to see what are some of the implications for businesses emerging from this study. And what we have done is that we have bucketed them under 4 broad themes, I would say. The first one is what we call as trust. The second one is the much talked about, often abused ESG, which is kind of moving in and out in terms of the corporate consciousness. Then the ubiquitous nature of technology and what role a technology will play in creating frictionless experiences, in making sure that we actually live in this physical digital world as seamlessly as possible. And what actually is the behavior? Intent is one thing, but how does it all translate into action and behaviors of the Indian consumer? So I'll just straight away dive into the first key theme, which is what we call as the trust factor. And what we believe is, when we talk about consumer centricity, the most important factor is that, are you creating a trusted ecosystem? Are you creating a trusted business model with the consumer? And what we are trying to unpack in this survey was to understand that how the Indian consumer looks at various industries. And you see tech right up there, you see healthcare right up there. Maybe it's a fallout of the COVID era where people did go vaccination drives, so on and so forth. Our sector, the retail and consumer sector, sits somewhere in between. And when we try to unpack this point, that what actually drives trust in a particular industry segment, there are certain factors that you see on the right hand side. And I think the consumers do understand that we are living in a very data intensive world. So consumer data, the way it is getting used, shared, analyzed, and fed back. Somebody was talking about that I get an offer when I'm going past that particular store. So this whole non-creepy nature of how data is getting used becomes very important. So consumer data protection is one of the top reasons which generates trust. Not surprisingly, the product quality, consistency of product and services that we are offering is another second biggest factor. And I would say the way the brands do talk about what they stand for, what their propositions are, what their offerings are, clearly help in building up the overall trust agenda that we have with the consumers. I think apart from these top 3 factors, the basics of the business remain intact. How well am I taking care of my stakeholders, whether it is environment, employees, consistency of availability, all of it in a way helps build the trust that we are talking about, and standing by what the brand stands for consistently is very, very important. Slightly busy slide, but I just wanted to unpack the the ESG values which the consumers are talking to us about. And no surprises here that the entire health and nutrition space is something which the consumers are really um, um, focused on, taking a lot of importance on in the way they kind of bring it into their daily lives. So the various categories that you see which are typically associated with health and nutrition is, is really where the preferences of the consumers are lying. Um, and no surprises there as well, whether it is in terms of organic food, whether it is in terms of the kind of sustainability which the brands are really talking about on their packaging, the way they are talking about the nutritional values, how well are they communicating about the origin of the product itself. There have been enough and more controversies of late where we see brands really running helter-skelter to contain the damage, whether it is Indian spices or the kind of sodium content we see in airline food. I think somewhere the consumer does give a lot of importance to what are the kind of health and nutrition values the brands are communicating consistently. Surprisingly, mobility is an interesting play here, and the consumers are clearly telling us as the quality of public infra improves in the country, the ownership, asset ownership, which is a global trend, is also reflective in India as well. And last but not the least, this entire piece around how important is the concern for climate. Now, we as consumers may think, as maybe G.B. Shaw George, Bernard Shaw said, after me the deluge, which pretty much means that I don't care what happens after me. But I think increasingly that consciousness of the consumers is moving towards what's the impact of my lifestyle, my choices on the overall environment footprint I'm actually generating on a day-to-day basis. So climate risk, trust me not, is becoming a very, very important message that we're hearing from the consumers. And brands which drive those cues, which own the environment agenda, which kind of publish their ESG scores, which own the ESG scores, whether it is a water footprint, plastic footprint, the entire recyclability, the effort that they're doing towards it, is all building on the trust equation and the quality equation with the Indian consumer. Quickly moving on to, I think this is a very interesting trend. We talked about a lot of brand.coms, marketplaces.com, but the Indian digital advertising ecosystem has really undergone a shape shift. And that's kind of mirroring what's happening in some of the other markets. Almost 50% plus of the total ad spends in the country now is digital. And no surprises here that off-platform marketing, as we call it, the social media, plays a very, very critical role. So the Googles of the world, the Metas of the world are actually the biggest ad revenue generators now. It's not the linear TV that we know as consumers. And it's reflective in all of these numbers that you can see, so how much of search is happening, how much of reviews and understanding of the product is happening, how much of sharing of consumption is happening, is all happening on these digital online channels. And the influencing happening as well through these channels. I didn't hear the word AI in the previous conversation, but AI is clearly driving a lot of at least the thought traffic in our conversations with our clients internally as well as externally. And clearly what we see is that as the thing matures, it becomes clear that the trust on AI will take some more time to build. On non-critical pieces, as you see on the left-hand side of the chart, talking about things like collating product informations or providing recommendations, those kind of pieces can be relegated to AI, but some of the more critical ones maybe not. And no surprises here, data privacy, cybersecurity, these are very, very critical considerations, which is going back to the first slide, data protection being a very, very important driver of how the consumer generates trust with a particular brand. That becomes very critical. Moving on to some of these trends, I think this appeals to a very small cross-section of India, as we know, affordable luxury, quiet luxury, the way you want to call it. Clearly, this is a non-elastic category, and these are pretty much generating their own set of demands. And maybe some of the consumers that we spoke to really talked about the fact that luxury is something that they will continue to spend on, which is good. But I think the critical piece is sitting in the middle of the chart, which is the importance of physical retail. I think physical retail is super alive. It's equal partner to the digital space. So truly living this entire theme of this meeting, the phygital retail that we are talking about. So whether you look at all the critical parts of the consumer journey, whether it is a discovery, whether it is consideration, whether it is actually purchase, physical retail is playing a very, very critical role in the way the whole consumption piece is happening. And both from volume as well as frequency point of view. I think we discussed product returns at length in the previous section, but I think for us, what's important is the quality of product packaging so that I don't get the product damaged. The quality of product content, the whole content supply chain is again supremely important in making sure that I don't encourage returns. And maybe the whole interaction process, the quality of images so that I see what I get. I don't get a physical versus image shock once I get the product back into me. So these are some of the reasons that we see are important, which are driving the whole returns part as well. I think it's important to really talk about brand switching because end of the day, it's a very incestuous consumer. Loyalty is really up for grabs. Gone are the few choice options, few channel options, few purchase occasions. Now, there's literally spoiled for choice. But I think somewhere the business fundamentals don't stay dynamic. They stay pretty much what you see on the chart. So some of the basics, for example, India is a value conscious market. So what's your value quotient continues to stay top of the line as far as the consumer is concerned. Broadly, your reputation is again a very, very important driver of brand choices, right? So your rewards, your reviews become very, very important. What's also important is this entire piece around how up to date you are with respect to how well you are able to anticipate what the competitive landscape is looking. So how well you are aware of the pricing, the promotion landscape that the consumer is experiencing when he or she is browsing continues to be important. And I think somewhere a lot of focus needs to be there to understand the consumer as they exist, and hence the ability to turn your product portfolio consistently becomes very important. So I was just talking to some gentlemen a few hours before this meeting, and I was just checking with them that how many turns you are doing on the apparel business that he was heading. And he said that I'm still struggling to hit high single digits. And we are all getting fed with 20 turns, 25 turns, which some of the global fashion retailers are able to generate. So somewhere this whole agility, innovation, connecting with consumers, and moving innovation better is continuously going to be critical as we kind of build the brand equity quotient with the consumers. So very quickly summarizing some of the key trends. I think this is the second last slide, so I will not tease this slide more, but I think these are important important constructs which I just wanted to leave you with. Whether it's health and nutrition, whether it is the whole piece around the importance of digital social media, the importance of talking about understanding the consumer sentiment hovering around the ESG part, importance of data protection, importance of deploying Gen AI where it is possible, talking about the importance of physical retail along with the digital push that we are all trying to do is going to be important as well. And investing in content supply chain. I think this is very, very important. The way you build your PDPs, the way you build your content on the physical packaging, the QR codes, trying to connect the dots with the whole antecedents of the end product. From a consumer point of view, I think the Indian consumers are clearly telling us through this survey, which is, as I said, just a couple of months old, are these points, that generally the Indian consumer continues to stay optimistic. We have heard a lot of data around employment. We have heard a lot of data around how India is is finely segmented into multiple tiers. But generally, the mood of the Indian consumer, Indian urban online consumer, continues to be positive. They are no-nonsense consumers, as consumers are typically. So they expect brands to walk the talk, whether it is on environment, whether it is on data, whether it is on the kind of values which they espouse. All of these are becoming very, very important. I think the whole piece around working on the consumer data with a lot of care, a lot of respect, and deploying it where it will create the maximum impact in a non-creepy sense. It's very difficult to define creepiness, but I think we get it when we see it, is going to be very, very important. And I think what we need to really also focus is that how do we fast forward this entire online journey, leveraging the influences, for example, is going to be a fast forwarding path to greater traction. And I think somewhere this entire piece around the in-store playing a very, very critical role, along with online and complementing it, will continue to be important. So pretty much this is what we had. I don't know if you have time for any questions or any comments or thoughts. Happy to take it. Okay, thanks for your listening, and we are here to give you some more insights if you need to. Yeah, thank you.